Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Atletico Madrid defeating Celta Vigo. We'll discuss the Europa League Matchday 1. We'll discuss Bayern Munich. They will be taking on Bayern Leverkusen on this weekend. It's going to be a very interesting game for Vincent Company. We'll discuss Arsenal and their style of play so far that we've seen from them this season, being a little bit more defensive, especially in the crucial games that they played. And yeah, we'll talk about that. And then we'll also discuss, as always, as we do on every show, we'll do our weekly roundup of the top headlines going on, or our daily roundups of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. But we have to start off though. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes the show successful, and we thrive on your energy and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share. Please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the dollar sign at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air. And it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can always go to the gsmcpodcast.net, of course, to tip, donate, or just leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're very thankful to have you as part of our community. We have to start off though with the big game of the day. Big game of the day, Atletico Madrid. That's a Madrid song. That's a Real Madrid song. But Atletico Madrid got that late winner with Julian Alvarez getting on the score sheet, scoring his second goal of his La Liga campaign so far this season, of his first La Liga campaign, obviously his second goal ever in La Liga. Late winner, getting on the end of a quality ball being brought in by Griezmann, who's, we know the importance that he has, that his career has been for Atletico Madrid under Simeone, the importance of him. We thought, Julian Alvarez potentially coming in is an opportunity for Atletico Madrid and Griezmann to part ways or so, but he's still a massive part of what Atletico Madrid tried to do. He's such an important player. Already has 5 goal contributions so far in their first 7 games, and this lovely assist to win it. And it's been this, it's the late show again with Atletico Madrid. It's a little bit like what we saw from Leverkusen last season. Now this is a way shorter sample size, obviously, but they got the late winner here. They also got the late winner against Athletic Bilbao. They got the late winner here. They got the late winner against Atletico Bilbao as well, and they're always in games. They're always in it. They have the quality, the individual players you look at in this team. Talked about Julian Alvarez. We know Sorlos as well, who allowed Julian Alvarez to get a rest here, because we know that Real Madrid, the big Madrid derby coming up this weekend, that allowed Diego Simeone to give Julian Alvarez a little bit of a rest there. We know the quality in this team with Gallagher now coming in defensively. They're solid with Molina, Lenormand, Jimenez. Oblak, very important as well in this game. He made some critical saves as well to keep this level. And then, with Atletico Madrid, and we know that they're especially against the better teams, and we'll probably see that this weekend. They will be a little bit more defensive. They'll concede possession. They conceded possession here going away to Celta Vigo at the Balaidos, and they conceded possession here. They only had about 40% possession. At the Celta Vigo had 59. Basically 60% possession in this game, and what Atletico do is they defend really, really well. They don't give up much opportunities. They make it hard to play against. They keep everything in front of them, and then they rely on individual moments, whether it comes from set piece or it just comes from the individual quality of the players. Again, you have Julian Alvarez coming in off the bench, and then you have the quality of Griezmann, that ball he played in. I mean, it's absolutely sublime. It was a sensational ball. And when you do defend the way that they do, and you're defensively as solid as Atletico Madrid is, and you have that goalkeeper that can bail you out once in a while, and you have that presence defensively, it allows you to win the game on individual moments of quality from the very good attackers that you have because of the defensive stability. Same thing with the Athletic Bilbao game. The fact that they have that defensive presence to them allowed them to get that winner later on, to even for that game to be 0-0 as long as it does. And when you defend really that well, these individual moments that they get is enough to be the winner. This is an Atletico Madrid team that has lost a game so far in this campaign. They have 15 points, which they find themselves 6 off Barcelona, which, yes, is something that they're, not something that they expected entering the season. Obviously, we didn't think Barcelona would be perfect 7 of 7, but since you had that opening, they've only conceded 3 goals all of this campaign, which is really, really good when you take in the fact that they conceded 2 in their opening game to Villarreal in that game that went up and down in that first half, where all the goals actually happened in that first half, and it finished 2-2. Apart from that, since that game, the only Atletico Madrid hasn't conceded in 6 straight games after that. So we know the capabilities, how they'll defend. They won't give up much space. They won't give up much opportunities, and they make it hard for you to play against them. You make it hard for you to play against them. I just think going in the long run, trying to compete with Barcelona and Real Madrid, trying to go Real Madrid, trying to go as far as they can in the Champions League, because we know this is Atletico Madrid team under Simeone. They have some real Champions League pedigree, been in multiple finals. Yes, they lost both of them to Real Madrid, but we haven't seen one of those late runs from Atletico for a while now in the Champions League, and to do that, I don't think the quality is the biggest thing. I think this Atletico Madrid team has huge ability. Some brilliant players. Alexander Sorlos. We glossed over that sadly because Julian Alvarez came in. This was a guy last year at Villarreal. He had 29 goal contributions. 29. He had 23 goals, 6 assists for Villarreal, and he was very, very important for them. He had 32 goal contributions in all competitions. Alexander Sorlos did for Villarreal. He was a very important part of that team. So you get a guy like him, and he's someone that game in, game out, you have the goals from him. You can you get it to fit playing with him, Alvarez, and Griezmann. That's some quality in midfield. Conor Gallagher, we know he was forced out of Chelsea, but he was one of Chelsea's more important players over the past few seasons, and he's a perfect player for Diego Simeone. As we've seen, he had that goal earlier in last game, and he's been playing really, really well. He'll do all the defensive bits of it, and he has that quality as well on the ball where he looks comfortable in midfield, that he looks like he belongs in midfield. A lot of his technique and his the talk about him at Chelsea was a lot of negative regarding him on the ball and saying there was no ceiling with him and that he was just a workaholic. Well, I think that's a little unfair because he does have quality. He does have quality to him. He's good on the ball. He can play multiple roles in the midfield. He can do every role in the midfield pretty solid. Even if you play him in an attacking position in the midfield, he's a good goal scorer as well. We didn't see that much for Chelsea last season because he had to play in a deeper positions to help control that midfield more. But you see him and what he did before Chelsea when he was playing at Crystal Palace, playing it in more advanced position. He has that. He has a goal in him. He has that wild card of a goal in him. He can take a strike. He can make a late run in the box and be a presence in there. He has that sort of ability. So he can do next to Koke, and I believe he next to Koke and Llorente and them. He can provide a valuable piece to the clock for Diego Simeone and this team. And then I think defensively with Lino Romand and Jimenez, I think they're solid defensively as well. You got guys like, and Rodrigo De Paul. I'm mistaken when I said De Paul, Koke, Gallagher. That's a good midfield composition. De Paul also getting some rest, getting ready for the Madrid game. Then you have players like Angel Correa off the bench that can provide pace in when you need someone to come on, maybe you're chasing a game, maybe you need someone that gives you a little bit more in transition. You have that flexibility. And look, obviously the standard is the standard. And with Atletico Madrid so far these past few years, even despite the talent, they have now reached the levels that we've expected of them. And sometimes the style of play is it. I mean, there's no problem playing defensive, but when you're so reliant on individual moments, sometimes it's just not enough to get you through, and we've seen that. So I think Atletico Madrid need a more cohesive attack. They need to be less reliant on moments and be able to create more often than they do, especially going forward against the difficult teams in the Champions League, and developing that consistency as well to compete with Real Madrid and Barcelona, who are now up there as well. But yeah, a good win for Atletico Madrid. That DNA of them always being in it till the end is something that they can build upon, and the belief that they have, the belief that the manager has in them, is all things that they can build upon. And we'll just look for some steady improvement, some improvement in terms of being able to create more opportunities and just be less reliant on individual moments. Show break here coming up. When we come back, we will do a full reaction to Europa League Matchday 1.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed Atletico Madrid defeating Celta Vigo. We move on to do a full reaction of Europa League Matchday 1. Not go in depth with any of the individual games. We discussed Man United playing Twente yesterday, but I just want to do like a full reaction to everything that happened. And some interesting things. Mourinho and their Fenerbahce got a win. We obviously talk about United's past loss. Lazio got a good win as well. Tottenham was able to get a win as well. So there was there was a good piece of action from this Europa League. I do have to say. We just to summarize all the fixtures. AZ Alkmaar beat Elfsborg 3-2. Bodo Glimt got a surprise 3-2 win over Porto. Anderlecht defeated Ferencvaros 2-1. Lazio defeated Dynamo Kiev 3-0. Galatasaray defeated PAOK Athens 3-1. Nice and Sociedad stalemate 1-1. Ludogorets, Slavia Praha got a 2-0 win over Ludogorets. Midtjylland and Hoffenheim drew 1-1. United obviously drew with Twente. Rangers got a 2-0 win over Malmo. Fenerbahce got a 2-1 win over Union San Gilos. Roma and Athletic Club drew 1-1. Ajax got a 4-0 win over Besiktas. Braga got a 2-1 win over Maccabi Tel Aviv. And then Lyon got a 2-0 win over Olympiacos Piraeus. And Eintracht Frankfurt and Victoria Pilsen finished 3-3. And Tottenham got that 3-0 win over Carabao despite having Draugsen sent off very early in that game. And then still Bucuresti got a 4-1 win over Rigas Football Scola. I think Fenerbahce getting that 2-1 win over Union San Gilos was a good result for them. A good result for Mourinho after what happened this weekend when they went up against Galatasaray, that loss and then everything that ensued after. Good response from Mourinho and his team. It was a good performance as well. Soyuncu, who actually got the score sheet, he scored the opener, and then Burgess had an own goal before Ross Sykes' goal right before the final whistle allowed Fenerbahce to go back to fly back to Turkey with the win. Really good result from them, and a good response to them from that loss. Talked about Lazio. Lazio now being managed by Marco Baroni. They got that. They got a 3-0 win over. They got a 3-0 win over Dynamo Kiev. And they played really good football. You had a brace from Boulaidia, and then Fisayo Dale Bashiru also scored. Lazio had a transition this summer with players that have been there for a while leaving. Luis Alberto, Ciro Immobile, and Philip Anderson, and there's been a little bit of transition for them, but they're starting to look solid. This is a good start for them in the Europa League as well. They had some, initially they had a few issues in the season, but recently it seems that they're starting to get on the right direction, and it's a good way to start off their Europa League campaign. We talked about United. I went on a rant about Manchester United. Flat out mediocre, unacceptable, pathetic, and it's always been like that with United. They're just flat out pathetic, and you can blame Erik ten Hag, but yeah, he's not part of the solution, but he's not the problem at United. He's not the problem at United. I'll say that. Athletic Club in Roma finished 1-1 as well. Obviously, this is a Roma team in a little bit of turmoil from how the season started, letting go of Daniel De Rossi as well, and the backlash that's been created because of it, because of how he, did a very good job at Roma last season, and not getting enough time to start off the season to turn around, which was a pretty poor start from them. But they got a win in Serie A, and then now they in heartbreaking fashion, conceding later on, they only managed a point against Athletic Club. But I do have to say, playing at Stadio Olimpico and only getting 5 shots and 3 shots on target is not that impressive. But of course, they're a team in a little bit of a vulnerable position, so they're just looking to build something. So and going back to Athletic Club as well, Aitor Paredes getting that big goal from them, going away from home, getting a point at the Stadio Olimpico. But for Ivan Juric, new manager at Roma, I do have to say, I think with this first 2 games, getting that win, their first win in Serie A, and then as well, managing a point against an Athletic Club team that could be difficult to play against. Good start to him because, they were in turmoil. So, yeah. Tottenham, they won 3-0, and they did it it was a little bit of difficult circumstance. First of all, the game was delayed because of travel issues and all that. But it became really dicey and really tricky when Dragusin got sent off, red card, 7 minutes in, and it put them in a very difficult position. This is, by the way, he's the first player ever to be sent off in his debut in a major European champion competition. And yeah, 7th minute is unbelievable. He gets caught on the ball. And obviously him trying to do a little bit too much to make up for that mistake. He fouls the player, is determined an obvious goal scoring opportunity because there's nobody behind him. He was the last man when he lost the ball. So it turned into a red card. But the big thing from Tottenham is, despite that red card, we know the issues that we've had from Tottenham, that we've seen so far from Tottenham. Just not been able to get the goals in the back of the net, not being clinical enough, lacking that cutting edge. Well, they scored 3 goals again. And another big thing is Dominic Solanke as well, who's still trying to recover his form, got on the score sheet again for Tottenham. So for me, good results for Tottenham. Really good results for Tottenham for me. Especially when you're playing the majority of the match with 10 men, that's never difficult. That's never easy. Brennan Johnson, he also had his third goal in 3 games. Pape Matarsar is the other person that scored, and obviously I talk about Solanke getting on the scoring sheet. The game was, I spoke a little bit about it earlier, but the game was actually delayed 35 minutes because of severe travel disruption, and Karabakh team was actually caught up in all the chaos because of the heavy rain in London at that time, just overall good win for Tottenham. When Postecoglou was talking after the game, he said the red card was not ideal. We started really sloppy, but the reaction afterwards was good. We wanted to press high even with 10 men. And that's the thing. We saw Tottenham against Chelsea last season, even down to 9 men. Postecoglou has a way of playing, and he's not gonna adapt. There's no plan B. So, there was no real surprise here that they continue to press high, that they continue to have, a relatively high line in this one, because that's just the way how it's gonna go about it. He's gonna live and die by that, by their style of play. And honestly, I'm not too critical about it, because a lot of the managers, they say they don't have plan B, and the plan B is to make plan A better. And that is what it is. The stubbornness and the arrogance in a good way sometimes is what makes these top managers. And you can say that for football players as well, or any profession, to be honest. A good level of arrogance in belief in what you're doing, can propel you to do it even better. So I have no problem with Postecoglou and how he continues to play, how he's playing, even in difficult circumstances. Show break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Bayern Munich in their clash against Leverkusen.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Bayern Munich. No, before the break, actually, we discussed Europa League Matchday 1. We move on to react to Bayern Munich. They'll be taking on Leverkusen. As you can see on the screen, you see a focused Vincent Kompany. Bayern Munich take on Leverkusen this Saturday. It's going to be a great game, obviously. These are, Leverkusen winning the title last year. Bayern Munich in the transition period with Vincent Kompany starting off their season, successfully, perfect in Bundesliga, getting a 9 in their opening game in the Champions League past Dinamo Zagreb. They find themselves top of the league, perfect 4-4, scoring 16 goals, only conceding 3. You see some brilliant attacking display from them. This is a team that put 5 past Werder Bremen, 9 past Dinamo Zagreb, 6 past Holstein Kiel, and then 4 past Ulm, SSV Ulm in the second Bundesliga during the first round of the German Cup. So this is a team that's scored a lot of goals this season, and they have real ability. These attacking players with the we know the quality and the technical ability of Jamal Musiala. We know Harry Kane and the goal scorer he's gonna be. The pace you have from Kingsley Coman, Sané, the quality of Gnabry. But you also have the added addition of a Michael Olise in there that can be very versatile for the team as well. You had the addition of João Palhinha, who hasn't really started in many games, but he's a player that will give Bayern Munich a different option in midfield. So far, he's only played in 3 Bundesliga games, but I back that as a signing to make a real impact for Bayern Munich. I do, but I do have to say. Leverkusen, they won the Bundesliga last season, and they did it in dominant fashion, and they're a very, very good team. Leverkusen is, I do have to say, finishing last season unbeaten in all competitions besides that Europa League final that they lost. They had that blimp early on against Leipzig, that loss they had against Leipzig. But I think they've responded since then beautifully. They had that dominant win over Hoffenheim and Feyenoord midweek in the Champions League. And then against Wolfsburg, we saw a little bit of the magic that we saw from Leverkusen last season. The late show, Bonafis getting the winner in the 93rd minute. That wasn't the strongest game for them. Conceding 3 goals, looking vulnerable in certain times in the game. But getting the winner, eventually in the later moments, it just that's what Leverkusen do, and it was important because you don't want to drop any more points already than they've already dropped. So because they've already lost the game. So but this is Bayern Munich. Look, Bayern Munich, I talked about how great that they've been, but this is Bayern Munich now under Vincent Kompany, their first real test, I do have to say. And up to this point, they haven't been tested much defensively as well. I still have huge issues with them. I thought they had lapse in concentration against Zagreb, in which they allowed Zagreb to get back into the game. They had a 3-2 at a period in the early in the second half. Still, Bayern went on to score 6 goals, but we know the issues that they have against even Wolfsburg, the opening game of the Bundesliga. We know the issues that they have defensively. How Bayern Munich by nature, they're a very, very open team, which you can be very open and be defensively solid. But the problem is you have Kim Min-jae and Upamecano that make mistakes on the ball, that have daft moments, and defensively have their moments that they can be vulnerable as well, and just are not proper professional in the way that they defend. They give up a lot of space and all that, and it's something that I've constantly talked about with Vincent Kompany, and that's the biggest issue with this Bayern Munich team, and the biggest thing he needs to fix if they want to compete going forward. So I'm very interested to see how they go against Leverkusen. How does that center back partnership look? If they go as open as they do, if they allow the Alphonso Davieses and the I don't know who starts right back. Last game was Leimer, Konrad Leimer. I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be Guerrero. I think you want that defensive stability of Guerrero being in there. Let's say they play, as open as they do. They allow Alphonso Davies and Guerrero to bomb up the fields, and Upamecano and Kim, they spill it out wide, and they go in trying to dominate Leverkusen. How can they, how can Bayern Munich control the threat of Leverkusen, control the threat of Florian Wirtz, of Bonafis, of Patrick Schick, of Amin Adel? How can they control that threat? Defensively is an important factor for Bayern Munich. Very important. For Leverkusen, you want to play with that sort of personality and swagger that you had last season. You don't want any complacency to come in. And maybe you can say that with their, not a bad start to the season, it's still a really good start, but not the start we're expecting. 3 wins and a loss. It's what Bayer Leverkusen did last season, and maybe it's a little bit ridiculous to expect what they did last season again. But you're expecting this team to, if that that loss will come, but that loss to come a little bit later on than this early in the season. But again, the way that they responded, especially what I was really impressed going away midweek, Feyenoord, and not exactly dominating possession and suffocating them, but just being a knockout artist, when the opportunities came, being clinical, being a knockout artist, taking your opportunities when they come and putting the team out of their misery. And that's what we saw from Leverkusen. And then a week later, or a few days later, we saw the late show again. They need to develop that identity and DNA that they had from last season. And look, now Bayern Munich, the confidence that they're gaining with Vincent Kompany, how they look, Leverkusen have a chance to send the message here. You're still not at our level, Vincent Kompany, they can send a message to Vincent Kompany. Yeah, you might come in here and you have Bayern doing this and that, but we're still the team to be in the Bundesliga. And this is a sort of game that can be huge either way. It could be the game that Leverkusen announces their dominance yet again, and to go away to Allianz Arena and win is the perfect way to do that. Or for Bayern Munich, it's an opportunity for them to gain confidence as well, to tell to send the message. We're back to being the best team in the Bundesliga. We have the best attack. We have the best team, and we're just better than Leverkusen, quite flat out. They have a chance to send that message as well. So this is a big statement game in my opinion, and it's on the top of my list for most exciting games for this weekend. So, I'm very, very excited to see how this plays out. Show break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Arsenal and some criticism on their style of play.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed Bayern Munich and them taking on Leverkusen. We move on to discuss Arsenal. Arsenal's been getting criticism with a lot of supporters from other teams regarding their, little bit pragmatic style of play that we've seen from them in certain times this season. And then they're getting criticism as well from John Stones and some reports coming out that Premier League teams have complained about Arsenal's dark arts or whatever. So, first of all, I'm going to address the dark arts one because I just think that one is a little bit ridiculous and I think I can tackle that one really quickly. Look, whatever these dark arts that they're talking about, it's nonsense, Whether it does come, if you're talking about the time wasting, the faking injury, whatever, it's all BS. These little things that they're doing, that Arsenal may be doing, that every other team does as well, to try to gain a competitive advantage any way you know how. Look, this is competition, this is sports, and it happens everywhere. If you can get an advantage in any way that's deemed not cheating, or not penalized as cheating, if it is okay, no, it's not cheating. If it's, if you're not cheating, and obviously cheating is subjective. So let me rephrase that actually. If you're able to get an advantage without getting punished for it, why stop? Whether it does come to, either time wasting, whether it is the players rushing to crowd the keeper on that goal against it, if any of these things can give Arsenal an advantage, they're going to do it. And any other team would do it too, Any other team would do it because that's just part of the competition. That's just how it goes, And I don't even think it's necessarily against the spirit of the game as well. Of these issues are so big that it's really like that big of a point, then it would be officiated out of the game. And clearly, there's nothing that Arsenal does that's cheating or that goes over the line. Everything that they do is within the spirit of the game, is within gamesmanship. And all they do is they have good gamesmanship tendencies to them to take advantage of little loopholes or little gray areas that can give them the biggest competitive advantage possible. And for me, that's very, very vital. And honestly, that's That's what we saw from teams in the past as well, you know. They had these gamesmanship to them, know-how to them. So, look, for me, the dark arts thing is a little nonsense and BS. And the fact that other Premier League teams are, you know, have been complaining to PGMOL or whatever, like, if that's the case, that's a joke. And that's, quite honestly, that's really sad. That's what it is. It's really, really sad because, oh yeah, they can't, you know, we can't do it as good as them, so why don't we stop them from doing it? I hate that. But going back to their style of play, this is also a place that I'm going to be but I'm going to defend Arsenal. But me, generally, as a football fan, I've never been a fan that, you know, that hates defensive football, that hates pragmatism. I don't even think that's a word, but hates the nature of being pragmatic, that hates the way of defensive football and all that. I respect defensive football. I can watch, Atletico Madrid play and appreciate the beauty of their style of play. Yeah, it's a little bit dull. Yeah, you could say it's hard to watch, which again, that is subjective. But that's something for me. I'm not, that's not something I'm critical over of managers or teams having a pragmatic way, because whatever gets you the result at the end of the day. Now, there's been certain moments that I've been, that sometimes I'm critical over a team's performance because of their how pragmatic they are, and the fact that they can't get out and do anything about it. Like, you know, they're sucked in, suffocated so much that they have no outlet in attack. But if a team has a consistent and pragmatic nature to them and have a consistency about them and getting the result and being able to take advantage of moments and all that, albeit to them. And as far as Arsenal found themselves in a position that they've needed to be pragmatic. You're going, you're going away to City, Tottenham, Villa. That's probably for Arsenal, 3 of the most difficult away games that they'll have to play, besides, going away to Stamford Bridge or, apart from that's probably the 3 most difficult away games that, Arsenal have to play. That's very, very difficult. Going away to Villa that had good success against them last season, beat them twice last season, finished top 4 last season, going away to them, North London derby on the road, not having Odegaard as well against Manchester City, not having your most creative player, and as top of that, having 10 men in the second half against Manchester City. Keep in mind, this is Arsenal, Manchester City. Last time they went down to 10 men, what happened when they went down to 10 men? They lost like 6 or 5 or something ridiculous. And Arteta would be a fool not to learn from those mistakes. And so I don't blame them at all for how pragmatic they are. It's what they've needed in those individual games to get the results. It's what they've needed. And sometimes, last season, you saw early on the season, there was a few moments that they dropped points that really, that really were vital came the end of the season with how tight the Premier League was last season. So maybe, you're looking at it from Mikel Arteta's perspective. Okay, we have a style of play that we have at this club and the way that we want to go about it. But the most important thing early on the season is to just get the results. And then naturally improve the performances as the season goes on and build to being that dominant team that Arsenal were at the end of last season. So what they're doing right now is and you're looking at it, before the season, you're Mikel Arteta, you're looking at the schedule and you're seeing the fact that you have to go away to Villa, away to Tottenham, away to City, all within the first 4 or 5 games in the Premier League. The most important, you're looking at that, okay, the most important thing is to get the results. That's literally what it is, especially if you're an Arsenal team that's competing for the Premier League, This is not an Arsenal team, we want to build something, we have a young team, we want to build something for the future, blah, blah, that they were in a position, that was the position that they were in a few years ago. Now an Arsenal team, yes, they're still young, but the position that they're in is we want to win the Premier League. So the most important thing is the results. And if you can build that consistency throughout the season where you're improving, and then you become the juggernaut that you are, you can look back. You want to make sure that when you're looking back into the season, you don't have any regrets over drop points. So that's what Mikel Arteta, I think that's what's going on in his mind. And then on top of that, you lose Mikel Mourinho, a midfielder that you brought in to, help stabilize that midfield. You lose Martin Odegaard, that's the big one, to that ankle injury. And this is an Arsenal team, if we have to be 100% honest, this is an Arsenal team that's lacking creativity without Martin Odegaard. You don't get any creativity from Bukayo Saka, in my opinion. He's not a creative player. You get no creativity from Gabriel Martinelli. You're dropping Havertz to play in midfield, or you're bringing in Trossard to make up for Odegaard. But those are not players that are going to make those cute and clever balls in behind, those tidy plays. They're not those kind of midfield players. That's not their nature to them. So you lack that creativity, And your fullbacks, you're playing Calafiori, who scored a great goal, and then Julian Timber, which yes, they can. They can join an attack and they'll be an outlet and they'll overlap and all that, but they're not the most creative fullbacks. It's not exactly Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson. You don't have that as well. So you lack that creativity without Martin Odegaard. This is an Arsenal team as well. They've scored 3 goals since Odegaard has been out. 2 of them have been set pieces and 1 has been a wonder goal. This is a team that hasn't been able to create much clear-cut opportunities since Odegaard's been out. So obviously, knowing you're not going to be able to create the opportunities you did in the back without Odegaard, you're going to naturally, you're going to want to play a little bit more defensive. You're going to want to make sure you don't concede any goals, any opportunities, and then rely on individual moments of magic like you saw from Calafiori or set pieces. You see what Arsenal are doing against City. This is set pieces that they practice, the way that they're crowding the keeper and they're essentially drawing up a play for Gabriel. They're literally essentially drawing all the players go and crowd the keeper, and Gabriel Magalhaes is the only one making that run into the 6-yard box with momentum to get his head on it. And they tried to do that a few minutes earlier on an earlier corner kick, and Gabriel just couldn't get a proper contact, or that would have been a goal early on. So they're using, they're taking advantage of set pieces. They're taking advantage of individual moments. And I see no problem with that, because the most important thing for Arsenal now is to get results. That's the most important thing. And you build yourself into a juggernaut team that, because you don't want to find yourself near the end of the season looking back with regret. You don't want to find yourself in that position. And Arsenal found themselves in that position last season, because in 2024, in that second half, they only lost 1 game to Aston Villa. Only 1 game, and they lost the league title. You shouldn't have to have a whole, second part of the season undefeated to win the league. But that's just what Manchester City are. So yeah, that's my defense of Arsenal. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will react to some of the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we discussed Arsenal and whether or not they should be criticized for their style of play so far this season. We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines. And we have to start off with some of the news regarding the Mallorca fan. He gets a suspended sentence for the Vinicius racist abuse. A Mallorca fan, he used racist insults against Vinicius Jr. and also Villarreal's Chukwueze, and he was handed a 12-month suspended sentence by the Spanish court on Thursday. La Liga, Real Madrid, and Villarreal, they have all filed lawsuits against that supporter who racially insulted Vinicius during a league game. Now it's been about a year and a half or so ago, and then also Chukwueze 2 weeks later. The Mallorca court sentenced him to 12 months in prison, and they also banned him from football stadiums in Spain for 3 years after finding him guilty of 2 offenses of racism. Vinicius Jr. addressed this, saying the suspension of the prison sentence has been made after the defendant apologized and showed his remorse. Hold on. No. This is what Real Madrid said. The suspension of the prison sentence has been made after the defendant apologized and showed his remorse, with a letter addressed to Vinicius Jr. having completed an equality and anti-discrimination program. This is the 3rd criminal conviction in recent months for racist abuse aimed at Real Madrid players. Real Madrid, who have been involved in the trials alongside their players as private prosecution, will continue working to uphold the values of our club and eradicate any racist content from the world of football or sport. Speaking also, Javier Tebas, the La Liga president, said he supported jail sentences for those convicted of racist abuse, saying, "This sentence is one of many that may come since we have some pending at the judicial level. We are going to pursue them until the end. Those who shout or sing racist insults must be put in jail. We will accomplish that. The league and the club have worked together to obtain this conviction. We are present in all the matches and we check very carefully with the game authorities and people in charge of integrity issues. We have special cameras in the areas where we consider there is more risk of a racist chant or insult. We also must highlight the collaboration from the fans who help us identify those who shout racist remarks. It is one of the situations that has made the Vinicius case different. Before, people did not point out. Now they are doing it while saying that these people don't belong in football." I do have to say with this, I do think the education, how there was an education element, is a very important part in this as well. Education and knowledge is something that's gonna end this, not end, because let's be honest, it'll never end, but something that can make this racist epidemic better. But we're not gonna go too much in depth on that with all the other news coming on. Sean Dyche said that the U.S. takeover, the Friedkin takeover, could bring Everton some stability. Said the new ownership can bring stability to the club because of the unsettled ground. Texas-based Friedkin Group announced on Monday that proposed takeover. Dyche, when he was speaking about it, said there's a long way to go to get everything to a final point, but the early signs look favorable. If the club has been on an unsettled ground for some time now, with varying situations and opinion on what was and what is and what should be. Certainly it's an initial spell. Should it get over the line, I imagine it will bring the feeling of stability after an up and down period for many different reasons. Yeah, there's been huge turmoil at Everton in the upper board for a while now. You look at the football as well this season, finding themselves in 19th place with 1 point in 5 games, starting the season off with 4 losses, finally getting their first results when they drew against Leicester City. They actually, in the last 3 games, they had leads in all of them. They had a 2-goal lead against Bournemouth that they fumbled away within the last 4 or 5 minutes. In the 85th minute, they had a 2-0 lead, fumbled in 3 goals. And then they had a 2-0 lead as well against Aston Villa. Eventually went on to concede 3. And then they had a 1-0 lead here against Leicester. But they concede later on in the 77th minute or so. That gives Leicester the equalizer in that. So obviously when it comes to Everton, there's issues there, definitely. Inter Miami, they have officially qualified for the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup after they've secured themselves as a top 4 club in the MLS Supporters Shield standings. Hugo Lloris and Olivier Giroud, we know that they're now at LAFC. They have lifted the U.S. Open Cup. When winners come join the team, they win. How surprising is that? Flamengo, they're out of the Copa Libertadores. Peñarol defeated them. Peñarol is now in the semifinal. Peñarol had a 0-0 draw at home against Flamengo, which allowed them to secure a spot. The Uruguayan club won their first leg 1-0. So now they move on to take on Botafogo, who beat Sao Paulo on penalties in the quarterfinal. So good result from Peñarol. Solskjaer, okay, this is an interesting one. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is open to United return. We know that he was sacked. Despite him being sacked, he is open to a United return. Solskjaer, he has not been in management actually since he was fired by United at the start of the 2021-22 campaign. He was involved, or he was the manager for United for almost 3 years. He was hired initially as an interim manager after Mourinho was dismissed December 2018, and he went on to earn a permanent spot. They went on later. They beat PSG in that epic quarterfinal, or round of 16 actually, in that epic round of 16. And he eventually got fired. Ralf Rangnick came in on an interim basis for the rest of the season. Then Erik ten Hag is now the manager there, and now we know that he's under huge amount of pressure at United with the fact that they've only won 3 games so far this season with 8 games played. And when he was speaking in a business forum at Oslo, in his home country, Norway, he said, if the family, speaking about United of course, if the family asks, I would say yes every day of the week. It feels wrong to talk about jobs that other people have now, but I would say yes, of course. So look, when I was looking at a lot of headlines, this was one of the top headlines for me. I don't understand why, because look, I don't want to be too critical of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because all he did is answer a question, and he answered it truthfully. And of course, if he had an opportunity to go back to United, he would. But he's just not that good of a manager. He's not at the level of coaching a team like Manchester United. And again, I don't want to be too critical of him. He seems like a very, lovely man, and a very nice man, and a respectable man. But in terms of management, he's just not, he's not good enough for Manchester United, So, there's really nothing much to add apart from that. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of